Okay, I jumped ahead just a little bit just to speed things up here. Let me tell you what I did first though, okay? I installed the intake manifold, and all I've done is just to get the bolts in there tightened. I tightened them to 21 foot-pounds is what spec is. I started with this bolt here, then did this one and this one and this one and this one, and then like that one, that one, and that one. Just kind of rotated them in there, went through 21 foot-pounds. I'm not worried about the back ones yet. Right now, what I want to concentrate on is just getting this vehicle to start. Make sure that the timing belt and everything's good. Make sure there's no misfires, the spark plugs are good. Make sure you don't have any oil leaks, stuff like that. I'm not going to put coolant in it right now. I'm just trying to get the engine to start. So, after I tightened down all the bolts to the upper intake, I then put the vacuum switching valve piece back on. This is all your stuff for evap, okay? You got a nut here, tighten that down, and a nut there. I think that was like 71 inch-pounds or something like that. Next thing you want to do is make sure that you get all your hoses connected. So this hose right here comes to here. There is no clamp on that. You have a hose coming off of here, going to the throttle body, and then you have another hose coming from the bottom. And make sure you get those clamps on. I used a pair of needle nose with a 45-degree angle to get on those clamps, like so. I put them on like that, okay? So those are really nice to have. All right, the next thing I did was I made sure to connect my hose coming from my brake booster, and also that wire harness right there for your throttle body, that guy right there. Make sure you connect him, push it on there until it clicks. Another thing you want to remember is connect this guy right here, and we still have a missing connector there. So, oh, right here it is, as I'm saying that. So put him in there, and boom, he fits in there just like that. Now it's time to install our air filter and our air filter housing. If you remember, at the beginning of this, I had found this hose right here was cracked and broken. If you look right here, and that's what happens. It's a 20-year-old vehicle. Well, it keeps cracking and breaking, so we cannot let that go back for the customer. That is not a good thing to do. So I actually dug through my hose collection, and guess what? I found one already pre-bent and everything. Looks like it's almost made for it. So we're going to see if that's going to work. Make sure you do that kind of stuff for the customer. And you know, I never charge anybody for stuff like that. Like, you know, what is that? 3 cents worth of hose, and you know, you're doing a good job for your customer. So let's set this air filter housing back into place. All right, so I got the filter in, and I got to remember my mass airflow sensor. That's the wire for it. Okay, now when I put this filter back in, the housing back in, you gotta put it to the throttle body first. Make sure it goes up on there and sits really good. And now when I put this thing in here, I have to go at, it's kind of a weird thing. You have to kind of pick up like this, go at an angle, and then put it down. You gotta make sure that these little clips go to their home. And if it's not sitting down in there right, you may want to check to make sure that your air filter is installed correctly. All right, I'm going to hook up my mass airflow sensor connector. I got a 10 millimeter. I'm going to tighten that guy down. This one's missing the one on the back side. If you have that, then which is very common, make sure you connect that. All right. All right. My air box is now connected to the throttle body. All right, here's this hose. It comes over top, and let's see here. I'm gonna have to use my pliers. Let's see if I can zoom in a little bit so you can see exactly what I'm doing. That hose right there. So, you know, when you are doing work, you want to make sure you put stuff back like the way it goes. You know, you don't want anything looking funky. You know, if a customer pops the hood and you don't have this hose route it correctly, you know, they might notice things like that. All right, so we're gonna put this on here. And see, this hose didn't even cost me anything. I pulled this off of another engine somewhere, and it's in pretty darn good shape. And see, we just saved the customer some money by being professional. Put this one on. Okay. Now, we should have a few small hoses here to take care of. This guy obviously goes here. This little guy goes here. And there's another one that I'm looking for, because it needs to go on the bottom or on the top. All right, well, let me look for that hose, make sure he gets connected. Probably drop down somewhere, and let me find that. Once I find it, I'll get back to you. All right, I'm going to show you something real quick to give you another quick tech tip. So I was looking for, where did that hose go? First of all, I found it laying down right here, and it had both ends. I'm like, great, where did that go? And I was looking and looking and looking, I couldn't see anything. So what I did was I basically attached it and then just kind of let it lay. And I still wasn't seeing much until I went to the other side of the car there, where this is that piece we took off for the cowl panel. And I looked at the vacuum, got the vacuum hose routine diagram right there. A lot of your vehicles have this. They'll have the diagram. And I was looking, okay, where does this thing go? And I saw it goes from the top port all the way over to the intake manifold. And you know, I just now painted this thing so this little tab here, nipple here, wasn't sticking out. I couldn't see it that well, so now it's routed. Matter of fact, I'm going to reroute that. I'm going to put it underneath here, make it look a little bit better, I think. And then we're going to put that back on there. Yep, and everything's connected just like it's from factory, okay? All right, so the next thing I want to put on, I'm going to go ahead and put this guy right here on. This is where the cold air comes in from the front here of the car to the air filter. So this is an important piece to put on. You got two little 6mm bolts, which means that you need a 10mm socket. Notice I didn't go real hard on that. All right, this guy needs to go in his little spot. All right, I think we have everything back on, enough to make the vehicle run. So I'm gonna go ahead and connect the battery here. As soon as I can get that, here we go. Okay, I'm gonna need a 10mm wrench. So let's see if I can find a regular 10mm wrench. I'm gonna hook this up, and what I'm gonna do next, I'm gonna go through everything, just make sure everything's tight, and we'll check the engine oil, make sure that's still good, and make sure all my hoses are connected, all my wiring connectors connected, and then I'm gonna fire it up, see what happens. Okay, it's the moment of truth. Will it start up? Will it have any problems? I checked the engine oil level, we're good there. I went through just to make sure all my connectors were connected, all the hoses were routed properly. Make sure I went through just, trying to see if there's any bolts that I missed, anything like that, anything silly that would keep this thing from starting or misfiring or anything like that. All my injectors are connected because I never disconnect them. All my cold packs are connected, mass airflow, throttle body. So let's see if it starts up And I am expecting one light to be on, and that would be the charging light, because we did not have the serpentine belt on for the alternator. Okay, I left it off intentionally because I just want to make sure that everything starts up, there's no oil leaks, stuff like that. So let's start up and see what happens. Yeah. Okay, sounds good. Sounds really good. I don't have any antifreeze in it, so I'm not going to let it run long. I just mopped the floor underneath a little bit ago. Still a little damp from that, but there's no oil leaks that I can see. Yeah, it's sounding really good. Yeah, this thing's got 203,000 on. I just checked. It's 203,000. I looked underneath. I didn't see any, oil dripping down or anything like that. I'm gonna go ahead and cut it off before it overheats. It doesn't have any antifreeze in it. And I have a battery light on, and that's it. So, hey, that's pretty good. All right, I think it's safe to say now that we can go ahead and start putting things back together. The next step I think we're going to do is put the motor mount back on, and then we'll fill it full of antifreeze. So yeah, let's get doing that, and hopefully we don't have any problems. Alrighty, it's time to put the motor mount in. So it has this little tab right here. The little tab's got to go in that hole down there. We got all these nuts, all these bolts we got to put on. Here's your ground wire. Okay, so it fits down there like that. Now we got to get this other piece, this black piece that I just had. It goes right there. Here it is. Okay. This sits in here like so. Okay. So this bolt, let's see here. We got these two long ones. I like to usually put those in first. They go right there. And this one goes right here. And this one goes up here. Then you should have a shorter one that goes right there. Okay. Now, before we get going much farther on that, we probably ought to stop and put our belts on. I'm reusing the belts because I do remember replacing these about a year ago, so I'm just going to go ahead and reuse them, save a little money, and be honest with you, they don't need it. And they're fairly easy to change. So yeah, they're fairly easy to change out. So I put the serpentine belt for the alternator and the AC compressor, put that around there, and I tightened it up a little bit using that bolt right there, 12 millimeter, and a long, kind of a long extension, and we got it tightened up. And now I realized that I had forgotten this bracket. So there's a nut we're going to take back off. Sorry about that. Like I said, it's been a little while since I've done one of these. But anyways, you take and slip this onto the alternator pivot bolt, and then you put this nut back on, and we had putting it on earlier and I've forgotten about that. So I want to take and tighten that up now. Okay. And now the alternator pivot bolt, it needs to be tightened up a little bit. Come back there and I will torque that. Okay, so these bolts are still nice and loose, which is good. We want to take this stepper here, this little bracket here. I'm not sure why we really need that. I don't see it as being really necessary, but we're going to put it on because that's the way we would have had it. Well, missing. Gotta find that bolt that goes in there. Put my ground bolts on. Gotta make sure you have a good ground. And those are 10 millimeters. And then this guy, don't forget him. Okay, now I gotta find the bolt that goes right there, and these two are not it. So let me find that bolt, and I'll be back, and we'll torque all these things down to spec. Okay, I went through and torqued all these down. These, according to the directions, at least what I can tell, all these right here, the 14 millimeters, they're all 47 foot-pounds, and these right here, the ground wire, that was 74. So motor mount's installed, and I say it's probably time. I went ahead and hooked up the upper radiator hose. So I say it's probably time to maybe look at putting a cowl panel on.